In 1983, Michael Jackson thrilled the world with 7 top 10 singles and a record-smashing album. Within a few years, the media would brand him Wacko Jacko and transform admiration into suspicion, long before any allegations surfaced or before courts weighed in. How did one of history's brightest stars become a headline spectacle? The answer reveals how narratives can outlive the truth itself. Thriller shattered every expectation. Released in late 1982, the album sent 7 songs into the Billboard Top 10, a feat no artist had achieved before. Michael Jackson's reach stretched far beyond the charts. His moonwalk on Motown 25 in March 1983 drew 50 million viewers, instantly becoming a cultural milestone. Magazine covers followed. Time, Ebony, Jet, Rolling Stone, and Newsweek all featured Jackson at the height of his powers. The music industry responded with a sweep at the 1984 Grammys, 8 awards in a single night, including Album of the Year. That same spring, President Ronald Reagan welcomed Jackson to the White House, praising him as an ambassador for hope and achievement. Pepsi signed him for a record-breaking endorsement worth $5 million, cementing his status as a global brand. In these years, Jackson was not just the king of pop, he was the most celebrated entertainer on earth, his influence crossing racial and national boundaries. Every chart, every headline, every handshake with a world leader added to a sense of limitless possibility. By 1989, a single nickname began to overshadow Michael Jackson's achievements. British tabloids, led by The Sun, branded him Wacko Jacko, a label that stuck with relentless force. This phrase, born in London newsrooms, was splashed across headlines and talk shows, trading complexity for spectacle. The stories no longer centered on chart records or sold-out stadiums. Instead, they fixated on his pet chimp Bubbles, the private amusement park at Neverland, and rumors about oxygen chambers and changing skin. Each detail was exaggerated, cropped, and repeated, turning private choices into public curiosities. The nickname flattened Jackson's persona, recasting him from musical innovator to a figure of ridicule. British tabloids exported this frame to American outlets, where it was picked up by late-night comedians and tabloid TV. The motifs, Neverland, Bubbles, and the repeated description bizarre, became shorthand for strangeness, outpacing any mention of artistry. Jackson's protests, including his 1989 song "Leave Me Alone," were drowned out by the noise. The editorial tone had flipped. The world's most celebrated entertainer was now a target for spectacle, not celebration. Magazine features on Madonna and Prince in the 1990s often took a different approach. Vanity Fair and Rolling Stone ran multi-thousand-word profiles that placed their careers in context, tracing artistic choices and personal reinventions. Madonna's interviews explored her business acumen and shifting personas, while Prince's coverage dissected musical innovation and industry battles. Even when their eccentricities surfaced, such as Madonna's controversial performances or Prince's name change, mainstream outlets balanced spectacle with background, often returning to the music itself. In contrast, stories about Michael Jackson in the same period rarely lingered on his creative process or legacy. Tabloid headlines outnumbered long-form analysis, and coverage leaned on repetition, the same images, the same rumors, the same shorthand for strangeness. Word counts for Madonna and Prince profiles regularly topped 3,000, while Jackson's mentions most often appeared as headlines or photo captions, stripped of nuance. The editorial choices were clear. For some stars, complexity was preserved. For Jackson, the frame narrowed, and the spectacle took center stage. In the early 1990s, newsroom routines at tabloid TV shows like Hard Copy and A Current Affair followed a clear formula. Producers gathered each morning to review which stories had spiked ratings the night before. Stories about Michael Jackson, no matter the substance, almost always landed near the top of the list. The incentive was direct. Segments that promised spectacle or hinted at scandal delivered higher viewership, and with it, more advertising revenue. Editors pushed for headlines that snapped. The verbs were chosen for impact: shocks, explodes, caught, reveals. Copywriters trimmed stories to their most sensational lines, and photo editors cropped images for maximum effect. A single frame of Jackson in a surgical mask, or standing beside Bubbles, could be reused for months, each time with a new implication. The economics behind these choices were simple. Teaser segments, Short previews aired before commercial breaks were designed to keep viewers from changing the channel. The more shocking the tease, the higher the retention. Anonymous sources, often unnamed insiders or friends, gave producers the freedom to speculate without accountability. These voices filled in gaps, adding intrigue even when facts were thin. Former tabloid producers describe an environment where speed mattered more than verification. If a rival show ran a rumor first, others would scramble to match it, sometimes with even less evidence. Media ethicists point to this period as a turning point when the line between reporting and entertainment blurred. The result was a checklist for sensational framing: dramatic verbs, cropped photos, anonymous tips, and a relentless focus on the next tease. These mechanics set the stage for what followed, priming audiences to expect spectacle over substance. In August 1993, Los Angeles police served a search warrant at Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch. The investigation followed allegations from Jordan Chandler, a 13-year-old boy whose family claimed Jackson had molested him. News of the search broke almost immediately, dominating headlines on both sides of the Atlantic. Tabloid television shows led every broadcast with updates, often relying on dramatic language and anonymous sources. The details of the accusation, however incomplete, were repeated in headlines, on talk radio, and across nightly newscasts. Jackson's denials were given far less space, often buried beneath speculation and commentary. The Los Angeles Police Department search, which included interviews and forensic analysis, failed to uncover evidence sufficient to support criminal charges. Prosecutors declined to file charges, citing a lack of corroboration. Still, the absence of charges did little to slow the coverage. Instead, the focus shifted to the civil lawsuit filed by the Chandler family. In January 1994, Jackson's attorneys reached a confidential settlement estimated at between $20 and $25 million. Legal experts explained that civil settlements do not imply guilt, noting that high-profile defendants often settle to avoid prolonged public scrutiny. Yet the nuance was lost in translation. The settlement, when reported at all, rarely made front pages or led broadcasts. Instead, its existence was folded into the ongoing narrative of accusation, creating a sense of unresolved suspicion. The Chandler case became a template for how stories about Jackson would be covered in the years to come. Allegations were amplified, outcomes minimized. The legal process played out in courtrooms, but the verdict in the court of public opinion was rendered by repetition, not by evidence. In December 2003, Santa Barbara District Attorney Tom Sneddon filed criminal charges against Michael Jackson, accusing him of 7 counts of child molestation and 2 counts of administering an intoxicant to a minor. The case centered on Gavin Arvizo, a teenage cancer survivor who had appeared in a British documentary with Jackson earlier that year. The prosecution laid out a sweeping conspiracy, alleging abduction, false imprisonment, and extortion. Thomas Messerow, Jackson's lead defense attorney, countered with a strategy that focused on inconsistencies in witness testimony and the lack of physical evidence. Over 4 months, the trial drew international attention, with reporters camped outside the courthouse and daily updates dominating headlines. On June 13, 2005, after more than 30 hours of deliberation, the jury returned not guilty verdicts on all 14 charges. The legal process had delivered its answer, but the scale of coverage and the tone of reporting had already shaped public memory in ways a verdict could not fully undo. Headline counts and segment tallies reveal how the same narrative about Michael Jackson endured for decades. Data from LexisNexis and the TV News Archive show a surge of coverage during the 1993 allegations, another spike in 2003 when criminal charges were filed, and only a modest dip after the 2005 acquittal. Even after court records cleared him, the volume of stories repeating accusations far outpaced those reporting verdicts. Charts mapping headline frequency make the pattern clear: peaks at each legal event, but no true valleys, just a steady background hum of suspicion. In 2019, the release of Leaving Neverland revived the cycle, with news outlets and streaming platforms pulling Jackson's music, and documentaries sparking new rounds of debate. Race-coded language and cultural tropes resurfaced, echoing the same frames used in the 1990s. For many, the allegations became the story, repeated so often that the verdicts themselves faded into the noise. Today, the power to shape reputations moves faster than facts. As headlines multiply, so do the stakes for anyone in the spotlight. The lesson is clear. Narratives can outlast verdicts, and our responsibility to question them has never been more urgent. What does that mean for the next story?